Hello, this is Dr. Jeff Kim, and very recently I had a chance at a professional learning to take a close read of the Ethnic Studies model curriculum. You can find this very easily as it's been adopted by the state of California in 2021. This is the Ethnic Studies model curriculum. It's kind of divided up into two sections, I would say. The first part is the guiding values and principles of ethnic studies, and the second is 8 outcomes of K-12 ethnic studies teaching. So I'd like to call it the D&D. First of all, the direction, and then second of all, the destination. So you're looking at the values and principles, and you're also looking at the outcomes. So what I'm not going to do is read line by line every single thing in this, but I thought I'd highlight some words. I thought I'd begin in that first part, the guiding values and principles, which is the direction. One word that pops out to me is humanization. So when we think about ethnic studies, the idea of seeing others, humans, seeing includes values of respect, love, hope, solidarity. Thinking about community cultural wealth. We live in one of the most culturally blessed nations in the world. How can we be culturally honoring? And in so many places we do live in a culturally blessed place, but when you ask folks what are some things that are a place of cultural wealth, it might be difficult for them to talk about, and of course like this can help to create that kind of direction. How about self-worth? I know many people I've talked to, especially people of color, have mentioned not seeing themselves reflected in the curriculum. So oftentimes when you hear your own story and the stories of others, it creates a greater sense of self-worth. And then also a place to share stories. I think, in my course, we talk about knowing our story and telling our stories and doing something good with our stories. So yes, this space of dialogue, this space of respectfully listening to each other, sharing stories, very, very important. How about connections? Connecting between different groups, ideas, struggles, some that folks can relate to, maybe some that folks can't relate to as much, but it's an opportunity to create that space, to create the empathy, to create that direction. So that's a little bit of the direction of ethnic studies, but now let's talk about the destination. What are the outcomes? So once again, I'm not reading line by line every single thing that's written out in the outcomes, but I just want to give some highlights, right? How about this? Giving voices to stories long silenced. So are we having a chance to hear all the stories, the diversity of stories that are out there? What does that do when we are able to do that? I think it helps us to be more empathetic, more understanding, more respectful, creates greater tolerance. Address experiences, including experience of systemic racism. I wish that was something that did not happen, but it is something that has happened in the United States and beyond the United States. And so being able to address these kinds of conversations and to have healthy conversations is so important. I think, and we understand this. I think when folks get counseling, oftentimes they're talking about like a pain point in their life. And then if that pain point is not handled well, it can lead to trauma. And I'm wondering if that could happen at a greater collectivistic space. So if there's like some trauma that is out there, some pain points, might it be healthy to have healthy discussions? Might that help to then create greater inclusion? That's another word that kind of popped out to me. So when you hear different stories being reflected, sometimes you feel like, you know what, I feel included in this space. I feel like I belong. Also, one of the biggest questions our youth have is the idea of creating identity. So what would it look like to understand your own identity or know your own story? How do we create spaces for that? That seems very important. Another word that pops out is building bridges of intergroup understanding. So even though I might know my own story, let's just say I did, it's so important to know the stories of others and to see the connections and intersections between these groups. And I think that helps us to be that E pluribus unum in our nation, from many ones, that we could really be we the people. I think belonging to many different types of social groups and understanding different groups. So it's not just race. A lot of people, when they think about ethnic studies, they're just thinking about race, and that is a factor, but also it could include religion, belief systems, class, ability, gender, citizenship status, socioeconomic status, language. There's so much that is also can be included to maximize, accelerate intersectionality. How about civic participants and strong social justice advocates? I think, would you say we need that more in our country? Folks that know how to be involved in the community, folks that know how to peaceably use dialogue and speak out with love and wisdom, and to talk about things that may need improvement, could use improvement. Do we need our young people having skills like that? And not just our young people, really. This is something I think, even older folks definitely can use and could benefit from as well. Devoting special attention to ethnic studies groups that have been significantly present in their own communities. And so once again, I began with myself with the Korean American Ethnic Studies course. Doesn't mean Korean Americans are better or anything like that. I just want to begin with myself, and through the sharing of my own Korean American story, helping to pave a way for others to share their story. And I would be very excited to learn other stories as well. Local focus to also create opportunities for civic engagement, such as working with city government and presenting to school boards. I think this would be wonderful. I think it's very important to support our students to know how to be engaged with the community. Could be, of course, at their site level as well, but also school board and city government. I think there's definitely a place for that. And growing in interpersonal communication, when you're able to talk about complex issues like race and ethnicity, what else is that going to help them with? A lot, right? So if you're able to very sensitively navigate through these kind of very more difficult, sensitive types of conversations, that's going to help them so much in the future and work with others so much better. And a part of it is in the talking, is in the communicating, and that's important. But it says here in the Model Ethnic Studies curriculum that the priority is actually on listening and seeking to understand before seeking to persuade. What do you think? Do you think we need to do that more these days? Listen more, seek to understand more before we seek to persuade? I think we could definitely grow in this area, and as democracy really show the way on how that can be done. A lot of countries out there, they're not as multicultural as the United States of America. And so when we show the way, not only do we help our own people here in the United States, but also we can really be a light for others outside of our country as well. Definitely in the areas of dialogue, I'm reminded of the acronym LAPP that I got from Braver Angels: to listen, acknowledge, pivot, and then persuade, or give your perspective. I have a YouTube video on that if you're interested. But a great way of approaching conversations, especially when you're talking to folks that might have a different belief and understanding that you have. That's a great approach to take. Now, how might I use the Model Ethnic Studies curriculum in a lesson type of format? Well, here it is. It's here from the state, maybe a type of jigsaw where I break the students up and say, hey, today we're going to focus on the direction of this course. And so you can divide students up into the 6 different groups, because there's 6 different values and principles of ethnic studies, and they can go ahead and share out some of their thoughts each in these different groups so that we can have a broad understanding. I don't know if we have to have the perfect understanding, but I think a broad understanding is great. And then looking at the 8 outcomes of K-12 ethnic studies teaching. So maybe another jigsaw group with 8 groups, and each team sharing out and having the opportunity to, share their thoughts, their metacognition, their thinking about some of these ideas. So not only telling the idea, but also them sharing their thinking around this idea. I think that could be a great approach to kind of creating some foundation for ethnic studies. I don't know if this would be my first lesson. I think the know and tell your story, the ethnographies, that's definitely something I probably want to begin with. But when we start going in deeper, looking at the Model Ethnic Studies curriculum, the actual adopted California State Board of Education guiding values, ethnic studies, and outcomes, I think there's a value for that. The direction and destination.